Hello, my name is Kylie. I'm a program assistant here at Leah's Pantry. And today I will be demonstrating a really easy recipe from eatfresh.org. It's called a sweet potato hash. Now, this recipe is a savory and sweet recipe that's really good for any mealtime or a side dish. But personally, I really like it in the mornings as a tasty breakfast. So before we begin, let's just go over our materials that we need. We're gonna need a large pan, a spatula, a stovetop. Today I'll be using my trusty camping stove. And for our ingredients, we're gonna need, of course, a sweet potato, bell pepper, and 1 cup onion. So I'm just gonna use a half an onion. We're also going to need, but not limited to, red chili pepper, some cumin, and some salt. So before I began this, I washed my hands thoroughly. I also washed all of my produce very well, and especially this sweet potato. The sweet potato is a root vegetable, so it's in the ground. You really want to scrub the outside of the sweet potato as much as possible before cutting into it, just so you don't get dirt in your food. So let's start by chopping up our sweet potato. So what I like to do is keep the skin on. The recipe says to peel it. You're welcome to peel it, but I like to keep the skin on so I can add those extra nutrients like vitamin A and fiber. So first, I'm going to cut the sweet potato to make sure that one end is flat, so it's not wiggling around when I'm cutting it and I don't cut my fingers off. Making sure that my fingers are in a claw, my thumb is back. Just going to do one little slice right down there. And now it's very stationary. It's not going to wiggle around when I cut it. I'm also going to keep a scrap bowl for all my veggie scraps so I can throw it in the freezer and then later make some vegetable broth out of it. All right, next with this, I'm just going to cut the ends off. And then next, I'm going to make 3 slices right in the middle of the sweet potato. Making sure that you're stable enough to cut. Cut right on through. Now I'm going to take each of these slices and I'm going to cut them in half or thirds, depending on how big you want your sweet potatoes cubed. I'm going to do mine in thirds. Now I'm going to make a quarter turn with all 3 of these. And I'm just going to chop them into cubes. Making sure my fingers are out of the way. And this is what we are looking for, as uniform as possible. It's okay if it's not, it's still going to taste great. You just want to try to keep them around the same size so they cook the same. All right. And again, with my 2 other ends, one in the middle, quarter turn, and start cubing. In there, one more. This one's a little smaller, so I'm going to just keep going. All right. So now that we are done with our sweet potato, it's in our reserve bowl. We're going to move on to our bell pepper. Now there's many ways to cut bell peppers, but this is the way that I like to cut my bell pepper. I like to cut the top and the bottom off first. And then I'm just gonna make one slice right down one side of the bell pepper. And with that, just try to fan it out. And you're gonna wanna take out all of these seeds and this white membrane known as a pith. Making sure all those seeds are out. I'm just gonna give it a little tap just in case. Tap, tap. And you're welcome to cut off the pith on the other ends of the bell peppers. They don't hold a lot of flavor. They are edible and they can be bitter. Personally, it doesn't bother me, so I just keep it on. And after that, I'm going to take one of these and I'm going to make slices, or also known as julienne. So we're going to cut these up, trying to making them about the same size as our sweet potatoes. It's okay if they're not. So I'm going to take a few of these strips, enough that I can handle, quarter turn, and then chop them up into cubes. So we're looking for some size like this, and we're going to throw them into our reserve bowl. And again, another thing that I like to do, just to not waste all that bell pepper, because we did cut off a few, pretty good amount, right? So a nice easy thing to do is just pop off that stem. They come off pretty easily, just like that. And now you can use this bell pepper, this end of the bell pepper. And just try to chop as evenly as possible. Okay. Throw this into our reserve bowl. All right, nice slices. Okay, and then quarter turn, making sure my fingers are out of the way. And cutting them up. Okay. And I do have the bottom, also going to use that. They do taste great in a veggie stock as well, makes it a little spicier, but I have this, I can do it. I'm gonna make sure that I use as much of this bell pepper as I can. All right, so next we have an onion, the tear-jerking onion. So what I like to do to make sure I keep that root on, because that's where the most concentrated compound is that makes you cry. I want to keep that root on. I also want to point it away from me. But it is a little bit of a given to cry when you're cutting an onion. It's okay to cry. So to prep this onion, I cut a flat end on the non-root side, and then I cut it in half right through the root. So what I'm going to do is cut about 3 or 4 slices vertically, and then 1 slice horizontally. So slice down, 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 down. So now you have these separate layers. And then we're going to cut right in the horizontally, right in the middle there, just to make them a little smaller chops. Now this, you just slice all the way down, making sure that your fingers are out of the way again, nice and curved. You can use your knuckles as a guide, and these turn into smaller pieces. It's easier, it's quicker, so you don't have to sit there with that onion and just pretty much waiting for it to cry. All right, we got that. And then another thing, just to use as much onion as I can, I'm going to turn this down and do the same thing. Make some vertical slices around the onion. And then I'm just going to chop again. All right. And we are left with that little amount of onion, and it can go into my scrap bowl. So I'm going to add these onions into the reserve bowl with my bell peppers because they are going to cook at the same time. All right. So now we got our veggies prepped. We're going to light up our stove and start cooking. All right. My trusty camping stove. This is an easy recipe that you can bring with you if you are camping. I love camping. So I like always bringing items that don't really necessarily need to be refrigerated because I can make breakfast whenever I want. I'm gonna heat up that stove. I'm gonna take a little bit of cooking oil, some vegetable oil, olive oil, whatever you have. I'm using avocado oil because that's what I have right now. All right, as that is heating up, I'm gonna throw in my bell pepper and onion mix. And we want to cook this for about 5 minutes or until your onions are tender. You'll know when they're tender when they get a little translucent, maybe a little browning on the ends. And what's great about this recipe is that you can add anything. It's very versatile. You can add more different color bell peppers to make it more of a colorful dish. You can also add some bacon if you don't want it to be vegetarian, or even an egg to add a little bit more protein. One thing that I really do like about this dish is that it's really budget friendly. It only takes half an onion, 1 bell pepper, 1 sweet potato, and this is gonna serve me and my sisters, all 3 of us, a pretty well portioned dish. I'm gonna mix this up. It's getting really heated. It's heating up pretty quick. To quicken up this process, you can always use a lid. And again, I have my spice mix in here. This is equal parts salt, cumin, and red pepper flakes. You can add any other ingredients that you'd like. You can add some cayenne pepper if you want it to be a little more spicier. If you want it to be sweeter, maybe a little bit of sugar or some honey. Now these are sizzling up and it's starting to smell pretty good. So I'm almost ready to add my sweet potatoes. Okay, so once my sweet potatoes are in, give it a little mix just to get that oil coated on it. And just the natural without the seasoning, it smells so good, so fresh. The sweet potatoes are starting to break down. You can smell a little bit of sweetness, but those onions and bell peppers are just very aromatic. I'm going to take my seasoning. I'm going to sprinkle it on top. And as you're cooking, if you can use your senses. So you want to taste as you go through just to see if you want to add a little more seasoning. I'm not going to taste this right now because it seems a little hot. So I'm just going to give it a sniff. And for me, I might want to add a little bit more salt to this. And I like things spicy, so I'm going to go in again with a little bit of red chili pepper. I'm just gonna put a lid on it and give it a second to settle. So we're gonna wanna cook this until you're able to take a fork and penetrate the potato, and it goes in nice and soft, very easily and very smoothly. What will help this process again is putting a lid on it to steam those potatoes. But remember, just listen to what you're cooking. You really want to keep stirring quite frequently, about 3 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, just so those potatoes won't stick to the bottom of your pan. I'm hearing that sizzle. Do you hear that sizzle? Okay, I'm gonna push this around. Woo! Smells so sweet, smells savory, and it also smells really spicy. So that's gonna make me very happy. Okay, let's give these potatoes a little check. Usually this takes about 20 minutes, but this pan's very hot and that lid helped a lot. Let me see if I can penetrate this. All right. I can perk it with a fork, but it's still a little hard, so I'm going to give it a little more time to cook. But I'm going to show you what it looks like right now. This is what we have so far. See that sizzle? Things are starting to brown up, getting nice and crispy if that's how you like it. Nice. I'm going to put that lid on it and give it a couple more minutes. I find that this is a great alternative to the regular O'Brien potatoes. I grew up eating a lot of potatoes, a lot of O'Brien potatoes, but lately I just have loved sweet potatoes. So if I can add them into anything, any mealtime, I'm going to. So this sweet potato hash is going to be perfect for me in the mornings when I'm camping. My sisters will enjoy it with me. I definitely do like some meat with my breakfast, so I would add a little bits of bacon, maybe put a fried egg on top, whatever you prefer. That's just my preference. Okay. These are starting to crisp up. That's how I like it. And you can see that. Okay, let's test these potatoes again. Nice. So it's nice and easy. I can prick it through. That means it won't be too hard when I eat it. I'm going to turn this off. Let it steam just a little bit. I also really enjoy things that are fresh on things that are sauteed. So I have cut up a little bit of just some parsley so I can top my dish with it. And so I don't have to wash another dish. I'm going to use one of these reserve bowls. Okay. Since this is sizzling hot, I'm going to throw a little bit in. I make it. Okay. A nice bit, making sure I leave some to share. I'm going to take my parsley. I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit on top. Okay. So this is our final product, still steaming. It does look a little hot, but it's okay, I'll blow on it. All right, let's taste this. It's a little extra spicy sweet potato hash. I'm gonna grab myself a sweet potato. Bell pepper, where are you at? All right. And an onion. Okay. It's hot, but it's really good. It still tastes really fresh because we didn't add a lot of seasoning to it, but that spice is kicking. I would possibly add a little bit more salt. Maybe, maybe a little pepper. Again, I like that spice. But this is a great dish to start your day. So if you do try this recipe, please let us know what substitutions you would make, what you would add to this, how you would elevate it, how you do your breakfast. I want to know what your preference is. So I hope you all enjoyed cooking with me today, cooking breakfast with me today. And please let us know if you end up making this dish. All right, happy cooking.